I hope you're here for the facts and the evidence and the deep dive and the look at the future, as well as maybe a bruh here and there. Whatever the reason, I've got your back. So let's cover the case, the cars, the questions, and the future.
We're gonna become assholes or something?
This is a two-part video. Part 1 is the legal stuff and the hearing, and Part 2 is what owners can look for in the future, and right now for that matter. And this video will answer completely, with evidence, why are Fiskers so cheap right now? Let's start with the hearing. Okay, the case. The judge was a backup, although extremely professional, knowledgeable, and experienced, a backup nonetheless, so he was unfamiliar with all the details in the case. And if you didn't know already, about 30% of this deal is cars in Austria that are really locked up amongst a whole bunch of Austrian insolvency rules, which I won't get into because the court couldn't even. As of the date the motion was filed, 118 sale vehicles in the Fisker inventory were located in Austria, and 480 sale vehicles in the Fisker inventory were located in Belgium. In order to be able to export the foreign sale vehicles from Austria and Belgium, permitting such foreign sale vehicles to be sold to the buyer as part of the sale transaction, the debtors have agreed to transfer on or before August 8th, 2024, an amount equal to 29%, approximately $2.35 million of the net proceeds, anticipated to be received from the sale of the foreign sale vehicles under the fleet sales agreement to Fisker's non-debtor affiliate, Fisker GmbH, the Austrian transfer. The Austrian transfer shall be made into escrow established by the debtors' council, and such transfer shall be conditioned on and subject to the execution by the debtors and Fisker GmbH Austria of an escrow agreement. Speaking of the hearing, let's get right to it. Resnick kicks it off with some FUD.
There was the precipitous drop in electric vehicle prices throughout the market, caused by lower demand and higher interest rates, and played a significant role in the filing of these cases.
This Forbes article published this month shows double-digit growth in EV sales year over year.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Resnick then covers the history of the bankruptcy and identifies the players.
We received informal comments to the proposed order from a number of parties, including Heights, the committee, the Fisker Owners Association. They have been participating heavily. The U.S. Department of Justice, representing the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, they have a keen interest in this. JP Morgan Chase, who has financed some of the vehicles. Fisker Austria, who potentially who claims some ownership over some of the vehicles, and which is being resolved in the sale order. Magna, who produced some of the vehicles, as well as TomTom, a vendor for the debtors' vehicles. I'm pleased to report, Your Honor, that we believe we were able to address and resolve all the issues by the foregoing parties. That's reflected in the revised proposed order that was filed late last night at docket number 228.
I have that order. I appreciate getting it.
So let's go through 228 now. Exhibit B, that's 228 with revisions. This is all the new stuff included before the hearing, but it is not the final order. However, these revisions make it easy to highlight what was added in the scope of the references during the hearing. Let's see. Pursuant to the fleet sales agreement, the seller is also granting the buyer a royalty-free, non-exclusive, non-assignable, non-sublicensable license solely to access and use in the operation of the sale vehicles and any other Fisker vehicles that the buyer may own or otherwise acquire under the fleet sales agreement, or otherwise to all relevant source code or other proprietary software operating elements, as well as existing developer work as may be necessary or required for the operability of the sale vehicles and any other Fisker vehicles that the buyer may own or otherwise acquire under the fleet sales agreement or otherwise, and post-transaction software improvements to the sale vehicles and to any other Fisker vehicles that the buyer may own or otherwise acquire under the fleet sales agreement or otherwise. This was also covered in my American Lease interview. American Lease will have this license to operate basically all of the parts of the Fisker Oceans, but if you notice, current Fisker owners are not mentioned in this. So software is completely up in the air for current owners, at least as of now. Remember, there's intellectual property involved in this software, which has not been liquidated yet. Here's some additional documentation to clarify. For the avoidance of doubt and notwithstanding anything to the contrary in this order, the fleet sales agreement, or any other transaction document, the purchased assets do not include title or ownership of any intellectual property or software, other than, for the avoidance of doubt, any rights of the buyer with respect to the license as provided in the fleet sales agreement, or any supplies, parts, spare parts, or other non-vehicle inventory, other than water pumps delivered to the buyer in connection with the June 26th stop sale hold as provided in the fleet sales agreement. It's important to note that a recall is not a legal mandate for a previously sold car to be fixed. If a car is recalled and an owner asks for the recall to be performed, the manufacturer must do it at no charge. But if as an individual you choose not to have your recall fixed, you may be liable instead of another party like your insurance company. The reason I bring this up, the difference between the cars of current individual owners and the cars that are being sold to American Lease during the fleet sale is that the manufacturer owns the cars in the fleet sale, and they have issued a stop sale requiring the remedy to be performed before the sale of each car, and in this case subject to the terms of the fleet sale order. This will be important later. This section is in regards to payments, and nothing in this order authorizes the debtors or any other party in interest to use or apply any proceeds, the pre-petition secured parties to exercise any remedies with respect to any proceeds, or any party to apply the proceeds in satisfaction of the pre-petition secured obligations as defined in the cash collateral order. This section basically says just because the money is being collected and put in this blocked account does not determine where it's going to go as far as the bankruptcy is concerned. Back to the hearing, Resnick continues to identify those parties in favor of the motion of sale.
And notably, the committee and the Fisker's Owners Association filed statement in support of the motion, docket number 203 and 210. And although our secured lender Heights has not filed anything, my understanding is that they are equally that they are supportive of the fleet sale and are consenting to the entry of the order here today. And the buyer is cooperating and agreeing to the extent they take some of the cars before Fisker is able to fix the issue. The buyer will fix the issue before the cars are put into service. Okay. We have language in the order to that effect, and NHTSA, our understanding is NHTSA does not oppose entry of the proposed order. That brings us to the objections, Your Honor. Two were filed, one by the U.S. trustee, docket number 193, and one by Ideal Motors, which is one of the debtors' dealer partnerships in California, docket number 194. Which we'll address.
These objections are covered in my previous video. Next, there's the Chapter 7 issue.
We understand that the secured lender intends to file a conversion motion to this to convert the case to a 7.
And that's already a reality. The Bankruptcy Code mandates conversion or dismissal of a Chapter 11 case upon a showing of substantial or continuing loss to or diminution of the estate and or in the absence of a reasonable likelihood of rehabilitation. Both bases are easily satisfied here. The debtors are liquidating and are generating cash solely from the sale of remaining assets, not from ongoing business operations. The debtors' cash collateral budgets easily demonstrate diminution in the value of the estates during these cases as funds are expended to complete the liquidation. The motion will be heard on July 29th. Resnick then highlights some realities of Chapter 7.
The fleet sale agreement, importantly, purports to bind a Chapter 7 trustee, and it purports to bind the purchaser to continue to be buying the rest of the cars and paying a Chapter 7 trustee. So at least on its face, it appears that it would continue to work in a Chapter 7. I will say that the debtors have, significant concerns about the practical nature of that because, as you can imagine, these are electric vehicles. There's an operating system. There's significant employees that are required to actually deliver the cars. We currently have about 130 employees, many of whom are working on the delivery of and the preparation of and curing the stop sale.
Where are the vehicles located?
The vehicles are located, I believe, all over the country, okay. Including in Austria and Belgium. And so, we think if this case were to convert to a 7, and we hope it doesn't, but if it were, we'd at least need time to figure out how to ensure seamless, performance by the debtors and by the purchaser. And that, Your Honor, is one of the things that we were able to achieve, at least in the interim was at least getting assurances that this conversion hearing would not occur prior to the 29th.
Greisman identifies pros and cons of the conversion.
Your Honor, I largely agree with Mr. Resnick's characterization. We're very concerned about the administrative burn here. Chapter 11 obviously is more expensive, even if we do reduce administrative expenses, but it's also, there's more certainty, it's more predictable. Chapter 7, at least initially, would be less expensive, but perhaps less predictable. We will, I think, take the next 2 weeks, exchange documents and ideas, and hopefully have constructive proposals early next week to assess whether a conversion ultimately is appropriate on the 29th. That might end up being a situation where maybe we're just too far apart. I hope that's not the case, but if it is, then we would then discuss with debtors what to do on the 29th and start to work on that sort of slow but controlled transition into Chapter 7, while also ensuring that the purchaser gets the benefit of its bargain, which we also understand is part of this entire arrangement.
Next is a cross-examination of DiDonato from Linda Richendorfer, where she highlights that DiDonato is the CRO of Fisker Inc. and Fisker Group Inc. She then asks about liens claimed by Heights Capital.
To make sure we're all on the same page here, so the $183 million owed to Heights, Heights has claimed it has a secured claim, correct?
Yes.
And that it has a lien on basically all of the assets of the American debtors, correct?
Yes.
Then there's an exchange about who is owed what in terms of the secured lender.
And does Heights have any liens, to your knowledge, on any assets of Fisker Austria?
I believe they do.
Richendorfer continues trying to understand the situation with Belgian and Austrian vehicles.
How long have the 480 vehicles been sitting in the Belgian port?
I understand that the last production runs were really in February and March of 2024.
So does that mean they've been sitting there since March of 2024?
I think that's a good approximation.
DiDonato establishes that because of the insolvency proceedings in Austria, the vehicles that are configured for the North American market and are part of the American lease sale cannot be moved until a monetary exchange is made with Austria because of their insolvency proceedings.
Has Fisker Austria undertaken any efforts to prevent the 480 vehicles in the Belgian port from setting sail for the U.S.?
Well, they at points reminded me that it would be a criminal act to take the vehicles out of Austria.
Richendorfer tries to clarify who owns these vehicles.
Who owns the vehicles right now?
The U.S. believes it owns the vehicles.
She further examines Mr. DiDonato as far as details with the Austrian vehicles and when and how the escrow arrangement will be made. Finally, after a very confusing testimony for somebody who hasn't read all the documents, the judge asks what the financial impact of this escrow and Austrian exchange will be.
Can somebody give me a sense of what the economic impact or significance of the Austrian escrow is?
$2.35 million.
That escrow is going to be funded with proceeds of the first grouping of vehicles that are being sold that are already here in the U.S., correct?
Yes.
Okay.
In exchange, the U.S. entity gets $10 million worth of vehicles. The next important fact I came across was a question asked by the judge.
The record indicates that the purchaser's relationship or familiarity with the company predates the bankruptcy filing. Is that correct?
Yes.
The purchaser is not related to the company or its principals.
Yes.
Resnick brings up the Owners Association.
We think the Fisker Owners Association support is extremely important and beneficial. The fact that American Lease has engaged in constructive dialogue with them and they've reached agreement on language in paragraph 38.
Let's go over that. The debtors shall take commercially reasonable steps to ensure that A, owners of the debtors' vehicles as of the petition date, existing owners, have access to any service-related information or instruction provided to buyer in connection with the sale transaction or thereafter. B, existing owners have reasonable access to necessary software updates and any spare parts and supplies from the date of entry of this order until the date upon which a final decree is entered, closing the debtors' Chapter 11 cases, and any stop sale hold affecting any existing owner's vehicle is cleared as promptly as practicable prior to entry of a final decree closing the debtors' Chapter 11 cases, or if converted, the debtors' Chapter 7 cases. From and after the date upon which this order is entered, the debtors and the buyer shall engage in good faith negotiations with the Fisker Owners Association with respect to access and availability to spare parts and supplies as applicable. So what does paragraph 38 mean? Disclosure of stuff, that's letter A. Access to software and parts, that's letter B. And the software thing is good news, but access doesn't mean implementation on the parts side. If there's a big pile of parts, let's say in Austria, Fisker will provide access, but they won't ship it or store it or deal with the logistics of said pile of parts. Fisker will remedy stop sale recalls and negotiate in good faith with American Lease and the Owners Association. That's definitely meaningful if the funds are allocated by the court to provide that remedy. Remember, all the money is in control of the court. We'll find out whether owners get remedies on the 29th. And of course, all of this goes away once the bankruptcy proceedings are complete, which Heights is in a race to finalize.
As Your Honor is aware, the FOA did file a conditional statement in support of the sale, which can be found at docket number 210.
Let's look at 210. As of the filing of this statement, the debtors and the buyer have only been able to provide the FOA with a high-level strategy for addressing their remaining obligations to existing vehicle owners with respect to the warranty, access to spare parts, maintaining existing software crucial to the continued operation of a Fisker vehicle, or clearing stop sale holds. Similarly, the buyer has committed to working with the FOA to facilitate existing vehicle owners access to spare parts at a fair market price and collaborating on a solution for long-term viability and use of critical software. Implementation of any solution will depend upon the debtors obtaining access to critical liquidity to A, clear stop sale holds, B, provide training to technicians in the debtor's FAST tool, that's basically the thing that connects to the car to service it, to ensure access to ongoing maintenance and repair of existing vehicles, and develop a roadmap for migrating the software architecture necessary for ensuring the safe and durable use of existing vehicles. Assuming the cooperation of the debtor's secured lender, which is not assured, approval of the sale transaction would count as the first step towards achieving these goals. Down in number 3, the FOA currently believes that the transaction embodied in the fleet sales agreement reflects the best opportunity for the debtors to maximize value for the estates while also preserving the rights of existing vehicle owners. Number 4, the support is contingent upon the debtors and the buyer's continued cooperation with the FOA to craft a commercially reasonable arrangement that will allow existing vehicle owners access to much needed spare parts and essential software updates, clear all stop sale holds impacting Fisker vehicles owned by existing vehicle owners, and C, assist existing vehicle owners in maintaining or reestablishing relationships with third-party service providers. Remember, the sale agreement locks this down and ensures it for American Lease, but has absolutely no guarantees for existing owners. Paragraph 40 in the agreement mentions TomTom. For the avoidance of doubt, any rights, interests, and obligations of the debtors under that certain license agreement effective as of October 13th, 2021 between TomTom and the seller, and data processing agreement from the same date, nothing in paragraph 38 of this order shall prejudice any rights or remedies of TomTom, which is TomTom saying that you can have good faith negotiations with anyone as a Fisker owner, but we reserve our rights and our remedies. Number 5, as of the filing of this statement, the FOA has grave concerns that the scarcity in the marketplace will lead to dramatically inflated pricing of available spare parts and that critical software will not be maintained to ensure the safe operation of Fisker vehicles.
When you're not really fine.
Without regular software updates, a Fisker vehicle could potentially suffer from performance issues ranging from glitches with the vehicle's operating system to increased vulnerability to cyber attacks to catastrophic failure.
Bruh.
Catastrophic.
Bruh.
Catastrophic.
Bruh.
Number 6, beyond these broader concerns, the FOA understands that the debtor's ability to clear the June 26th stop sale hold impacting existing vehicle owners is dependent upon the debtor's ability to allocate approximately $300,000 of cash collateral towards this objective. The communication failure with the Fisker Ocean water pump that led to the voluntary recall can cause the high-voltage battery management system to enter limp mode, causing a loss of drive power, in essence immobilizing the vehicle. The FOA has not seen a cash collateral budget that includes any line item designated towards these crucial repairs, calling into question the debtor's secured lender's willingness to give even the slightest consideration to the needs of existing vehicle owners. Number 7, the FOA's support for the sale transaction is thus contingent on the debtors obtaining access to cash collateral to clear the stop sale holds and the assurances the FOA has received from the debtors and the buyer that they will work in good faith with the FOA to address the specific concerns outlined above of existing vehicle owners. Number 8, the FOA reserves all rights with respect to the entry of any order approving the fleet sales agreement or on any similar sale to the extent that the terms of such sale seek to impair, limit, and/or modify any existing vehicle owner's rights under the warranty or with respect to the operation of their vehicles, including access to spare parts, supplies, and software updates. Have you ever heard of Neutrogena shampoo? It's this stuff right here, and it's not $158 because it's better than everything else or it's cooler than everything else. It's because it was accused of being carcinogenic. My mother used it her entire adult life as long as she can remember, and one day she calls me and says, "I can't find my shampoo, can you please order it?" And obviously, it's all been pulled from the shelves, but some people could still be hoarding it. Now, if you order this, it'll never show up. I've ordered it before. But this is now a Fisker Ocean. Insurance, warranty, parts, service, everything should be $1149, but will be $158.89, and you may never even get it. And if you don't like my analogy, please tell me about how I make videos just for clicks down in the comments.
Negative news gets clicks. Got it. You will do whatever absurd things you can for clicks. It's sad.
The only metric you can see before you watch a video is the view count, and I'm the problem.
It's a total loser. They ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
Heights Capital, because they're in control of the cash collateral, will not allow $300,000 necessary to implement the recall to owners to be allocated.
We do agree that the proposed sale of the fleet inventory to American Lease reflects the best outcome under the facts and circumstances of these cases. But as of today, the most pressing concern is ensuring that the debtors are in a position to take all steps necessary to clear the 4 pending recalls that you've heard referred to during today's proceedings, most pressing being the June 26th recall. The safety concern surrounding this vehicle or this recall is highlighted by the fact that American Lease has committed to keeping vehicles subject to the June 26th recall off the road until this necessary repair has been made and the recall has been cleared. Based on our conversations with the debtor, it's our understanding that the cost of clearing this June 26th recall with respect to existing vehicle owners is approximately $300,000, and the FOA is very concerned that no amount appears to have been allocated for these repairs in either the 4th interim cash collateral budget that was filed Sunday evening or any of the earlier filed budgets. So while the debtors seem supportive of allocating the funds necessary to these repairs, as of today, it is our understanding that the secured lenders have not yet consented to the use of such funds.
Chase then addresses paragraph 39, which we can look at, and it's basically 5 vehicles that either were dropped off to Fisker and never returned to customers, or paid for and never delivered. I know that's hard to imagine. The debtors and Chase shall be authorized, but not directed, to make arrangements for the delivery of such vehicles to Chase as soon as practicable without need for relief from the automatic stay. Basically, these 5 units aren't being sold to American Lease. Representation for American Lease then addresses the sale.
The Fisker's Owner Association has been engaged closely with our client, and there's a very earnest recognition that the critical mass of our clients' purchases in collaboration with the FOA really does maximize the possibility that every constituency can avail itself of spare parts and other support. It's our view in careful analysis of the objection of the trustee that factual developments since the time of that objection have reflected a precipitous diminution of the value of the vehicles, and that very much evidences that the purchase price per vehicle that is being offered in this transaction is very much a market price, particularly when the court bears in mind that our client is assuming the responsibility to source parts prospectively to keep its fleet on the road. It really is a commercial challenge that's material, and in addition, it will have to clear the recalls, as has been pointed out, in order to utilize this fleet in the conduct of its business.
Richendorfer talks big picture.
Your Honor, U.S. trustee is very concerned that there's only one creditor who's going to benefit here, and it is the secured lender. I know that the committee and others are looking into the basis of that security interest. Things may shift over time. I don't know. That's not my portion of the case. Yes, the money is being used to pay employees. The employees, though, are being used to do work on the vehicle so they're ready to be delivered. So it's like this circular analysis. I hope at the end of the day there are creditors, by that I mean general unsecured creditors, that benefit. I still don't know where the liquidity is coming from that's going to cover claims of the secured lender and also the administrative claims that this estate has been accruing.
Next, Ideal Motors makes its case regarding its objection.
What is the relief that you would be seeking with respect to the 57 vehicles? Do you want them carved out of the transaction, or?
Yes, Your Honor. I do appreciate your comments, and that's all we're asking for, is that these vehicles be carved out, they not be sold now, and that be reserved for another date for determination as to the ownership.
The Ideal Motors thing is very complex. They purchased a bunch of Oceans. Some of the vehicles they purchased were bricked, unknowingly, obviously. They also had an allotment of cars that were property of Fisker, and they were selling them as a dealer. However, at least one Fisker employee was attempting to make right the bricked cars that Ideal Motors owned by replacing them with operational units from the sale and display models. Ideal Motors wanted to prevent the dealer display cars from being sold right away so they could remedy more of the bricked units they own, which won't happen as the judge approves the sale.
I will overrule that objection. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to grant the motion to sell the fleet as described and as it's been modified in the most recent filings.
The judge notes that private sales are not normally the best thing in bankruptcy, but because there are so few buyers that could both take on the sale and the implementation as well as delivery of the recall, and the fact that the trustee was able to make a lot of discoveries based on their objection, that he is satisfied to approve the motion for the sale. So let's go over what the sale means for the future of Fisker owners. Someone is going to have access to Fisker software, service tools, cloud servers, LTE coverage, etc. But it's not owners. American Lease gets that license for all that stuff in a legally binding agreement. Owners definitely do not. However, American Lease does not own any intellectual property, at least as part of the sale. All the stop sale recalls for all the American Lease vehicles before American Lease has to pay for them will be remedied of the June 26th stop sale water pump recall. And the sale of the vehicles does not determine where the money from the sale will go. The secured lender, who has a lien on all of Fisker's assets, does not want this case in Chapter 11 anymore. They want it to go to Chapter 7, even though they know it will make the resolution of the case less predictable. And that can really hurt everyone else's claims, including existing owners. Speaking of existing owners, they were able to negotiate access to required software and parts, as well as potentially stop sale recalls until the bankruptcy's over. But after it's over, it's all over for owners. In that same paragraph in the agreement, good faith negotiations with the buyer, American Lease, are stipulated as far as availability of spare parts and supplies, but not software. The Fisker Owners Association approves of the sale conditionally if they can get that $300,000 of cash collateral for the remedy of their own recalls, and they reserve the right to object if they can't get those stop sales remedied. In that same vein, TomTom reserves its rights and remedies based on Fisker's prior agreement to provide service way back in 2021, regardless of what the Fisker Owners Association paragraph says about good faith negotiations for software. NHTSA doesn't want the American Lease vehicles on the road without those recalls being cleared, but no money has even been allocated to clear owners' vehicles, at least in any current budget. American Lease and pretty much everyone else agrees that the purchase price American Lease is willing to pay is now the market price because of all of this stuff going on, but the U.S. trustees' concerns related to the money are that no one's going to get anything except for Heights Capital, the secured lender. And just as a perfect example of what could go wrong dealing with Fisker, Ideal Motors bought a bunch of cars from them, and at least a significant number of those were just bricks already. So there's a lot of risk involved dealing with Fisker and Heights Capital right now. Also, very predictably, objections have been made of the Chapter 7 conversion. Let's go through those. And here's the objection by the FOA. The FOA joins the objection in full. The FOA writes separately to explain why conversion now will inflict substantial harm on existing vehicle owners. Number 2 says, specialized support from the debtors is needed to ensure access to spare parts and the software architecture necessary to operate Fisker vehicles. The FOA has begun to coordinate the purchasing of critical spare parts from manufacturers because the FOA is unaware of any dealership or automotive shop that could provide Fisker vehicle repairs or services. As far as the cloud, these efforts require extensive due diligence, knowledge sharing, and feasibility analyses for understanding the technical capabilities, labor requirements, and required budget. The FOA is working on solutions to provide technicians with required training and access to the FAST tool, which is necessary to support Fisker vehicles, and negotiating the continuation of 4G connectivity with T-Mobile and navigation services with TomTom to ensure the continued operation of each Fisker vehicle. Number 3 is about the stop sale hold. The debtors must clear the June 26th stop sale hold affecting vehicle owners. The FOA understands that as of July 24th, 2024, only approximately 36% of vehicles, a lion's share of which are subject to the sale, have deployed the software upgrade necessary to resolve 2 of the stop sale holds. The FOA understands that the debtors are in the process of ensuring that all owners get access to this upgrade. That's 2.1. While the FOA has the capacity to continue 4G connectivity and navigation services, the FOA requires data from Fisker associating each vehicle VIN with a unique identifier from the vehicle's SIM card. Understanding these important details and gaining access to necessary data remains ongoing and subject to further discussions with the debtors. Number 4, conversion now will potentially unwind all efforts made thus far, leaving existing vehicle owners owning inoperable vehicles. If these discussions continue, the FOA is cautiously optimistic that these discussions will ultimately lead to a durable resolution that will benefit all vehicle owners. Number 5, under these circumstances, and for the reasons the debtors explain in more detail in the objection, the court should deny the motion to convert. It mentions unusual circumstances and a result-oriented approach. Number 6, the FOA understands that the debtors will need to demonstrate to this court that it has a viable path out of Chapter 11. But the court should not convert these cases until after the debtors have accomplished what they set out to do when they filed these cases. Use the breathing spell afforded by Chapter 11 to monetize their assets and take the necessary steps to ensure that existing vehicles are safe to operate. In short, conversion at this time will not serve anyone's interest, least of all the FOA and existing vehicle owners who, for better or worse, are depending on the debtors' management to achieve a durable resolution of the various issues existing vehicle owners face. Here's the U.S. Court's objection. It starts off giving information about the fact that Fisker is a car company and that NHTSA has a bunch of safety requirements and how that's reported and what's done typically in that situation with manufacturers. And then we get down to number 7. All vehicles are either 23 or 24 in number 7. Then it talks about the recalls. First, the 2.1 update, saying in number 8, according to Fisker, complete implementation of this remedy will take months. Number 9 is the door handle. It notes that owner notification isn't even required until August 31st. Number 10 is regarding the stop sale hold from June 26th. It also notes that Fisker has not sent out its owner notification letters, nor has it remedied any vehicles. Those mailings go out August 23rd. Number 12 is important. Debtors have represented that Fisker plans to remedy recalls for existing vehicle owners. These plans include locating sufficient parts and door handle force measurement tools to address the door handle stop sale hold and the June 26th stop sale hold, conducting trainings to educate dealers and service providers so as to be in position to address any outstanding repairs when the debtors ceased operations, and engaging in good faith discussions with the Fisker Owners Association to protect the interests of existing owners. Number 13, CVI represents that it intends to fund employees and other administrative expenses along with orderly completion of the American lease sale, including the stop sale hold and software issues. 14, in addition to the software related stop sale holds, door handle stop sale hold, and June 26th stop sale hold, there are 4 open and outstanding NHTSA investigations of other safety concerns with Fisker vehicles. But how long remedying these safety concerns is unknown. It further remains unknown whether any entity other than Fisker would be able to implement the 2.1 OS update or any other necessary over-the-air updates. Then we finally get to the objection. Number 15, CVI moves this court to convert under Section 1112B. The court has discretion not to convert upon its finding that unusual circumstances exist that establish that conversion conversion is not in the creditor's and estate's best interests. Number 16. The circumstances here are unusual. Conversion to Chapter 7 proceedings could present a public safety concern, as the appointment of a Chapter 7 trustee may be unable and unprepared to effectively remedy the debtor's outstanding recalls under the Safety Act. Failure to remedy recalls risks public safety. 17. Conversion to Chapter 7 jeopardizes recall remediation efforts and risks public safety. A Chapter 7 trustee may be ill-equipped to continue Fisker's remediation efforts, certainly without employees or institutional knowledge. Further, while CVI intends to fund completion of the American lease sale, the fleet sales agreement stop-sale hold conditions only address recall remedies for those vehicles not yet on public roads. This presents a real risk to vehicle safety for the public. 19. Remedying vehicle recalls is in the best interest of the estate. 19 talks about the Safety Act. Instead, in any bankruptcy proceedings, a manufacturer's obligations under the Safety Act shall be treated as a claim of the United States government against such manufacturer, and given priority pursuant to Section 3713A1A of Title 31 of the United States Code, the federal priority statute, to ensure that consumers are adequately protected from any safety defect or noncompliance determined to exist in the manufacturer's products. The federal priority statute elevates a claim of the United States so that it must, quote, be paid first, end quote. That's powerful, and there's why the U.S. objected. A recall changes how the money's distributed. Number 20. A manufacturer is obligated to comply with the Safety Act, notwithstanding its filing of a petition in bankruptcy to ensure that consumers are protected from any harm caused by safety defects or noncompliance in the manufacturer's products. To further emphasize the importance of a manufacturer's continued compliance with the Safety Act pending a bankruptcy proceeding, Congress determined that NHTSA has the right to file a claim against the estate for the debtor's outstanding or incomplete recall obligations, and that claim will have priority above, at the least, priority and general unsecured claims. Of course, Heights doesn't care about that. They have the highest priority, which would be above that. 21. Because of NHTSA's priority, the value of the estate is directly and adversely impacted by the debtor's ability to remedy recalls in both a Chapter 11 and Chapter 7 proceeding. Presently, conversion to Chapter 7 risks leaving the estate with open recalls. Duh. If ever there was a time to say duh. NHTSA cannot carry out a recall on a manufacturer's behalf. This is why Fisker continuing to perform its recall obligations is critical to public safety. Conclusion. For the foregoing reasons, the United States requests that the court deny CVI's motion to convert and grants such other and further relief as the court deems necessary and just. Finally, Fisker has objected and then provided an updated reply objection to the Chapter 7 conversion as well, and they're so long I'm not even going to get into them in this video. But the reasons provided by the United States and the Fisker Owners Association are really as deep as we need to go as observers of the situation. Additionally, there is another objection from the Unsecured Creditors Committee, but it's sealed right now. Also, some great slides from the demonstratives to be used by the official Committee of Unsecured Creditors in the hearing. You can pause and read them if you'd like, but the bottom line on the first one showing the death spiral, which I'm a huge fan of, verbiage-wise. On its July and September aggregate cash investments of $450 million, Heights has recovered $507 million using the alternate conversion provision and cash sweeps for an implied profit of $57 million. Yet Heights continues to assert a $183 million secured claim against the debtors. The next one is the dilutive impact of the alternative conversion. That's that same provision mentioned above, and I actually showed this as an example back in May. Let's take a look at dilution versus stock price on top of each other. The dilution goes up, there's more shares available, those shares become less valuable, the stock price goes down. Is this bad for investors? Yes. Once again, subscribers, you already knew this, but feel free to pause and take a look at that one as well. Okay, so what is the ownership experience really going to look like? There are parts. Everyone's going to have access to them. Not just the US, but they're going to be spread out. Dealers, local hubs, centralized locations, third-party shops, etc. What if I need service right now? Great question. The FOA is saying to email them. It's literally at fiskeroa.com. Now, will you get service? Probably not very quickly. Or it'll be some really weird experience, like you had to go to a Facebook group and make a comment, and then they remotely opened your car because you locked your keys in it, if you're lucky. What if I want out? Contact American Lease. Josh from American Lease said that he'll take your offer right away and gave me his personal email at American Lease so you can reach out to him. It's right here. What about connectivity? After bankruptcy, there's no license that will make your Fisker continue to work. That's definitely going to be worked out by the end of bankruptcy as far as who owns what, but your connectivity is definitely going to consist of additional costs. Either you'll be establishing your own contracts with TomTom and T-Mobile, as well as whoever has the cloud, or one or any of those services will be provided by the FOA. So, to be concrete, 4G is gone, navigation is gone, cloud services are gone when Fisker shuts down, and that's the end of bankruptcy, either Chapter 7 or Chapter 11, and after that, you're gonna need to get out your wallet. Period. What is cloud access? Well, that's the ability for your Fisker to connect to the internet and move the data where it needs to go for it to work. And the owner of the IP will be the owner of that cloud. Will the Fisker Owners Association buy the cloud? Possibly, but that will make your membership extremely expensive. What's going on at the FOA? You'll have to join and then pay $25 to get access to that. What if I need these updates that keep my car on the road safely because of these recalls and I don't have 2.1? You're not alone. It's about 15% rolled out worldwide. What about software 3.0? You can pretty much count that out. But 2.2 is real and there's even budgetary implications there. So you'll probably get that, and it could potentially have phone is key. What if I don't even have 2.0 yet? Well, if someone tries to push 2.1 or 2.2 into your vehicle and you don't have 2.0, well, catastrophic, 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 bruh. Catastrophic, 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 bruh. It could permanently brick the car until you get service, which there isn't any.
At FiskerOA.com.
When will these answers be concrete? The end of bankruptcy is really the right answer, but until the IP is sold, nobody knows exactly how ownership is going to go, at least going forward. What about my water pump? Until the 29th, there are no water pumps for you.
No soup for you! Come back 1 year!
Except existing units that you might be able to get a hold of through a bunch of networking the FOA is doing in Austria, but those pumps could also be subject to a recall in the future, so it's just a temporary fix there, and it will likely come with additional cost. Do I have to stop driving my Ocean because of the water pump? NHTSA wants American Lease's versions to be like that, but you don't have to stop driving your Ocean. Just know that if that failure happens, you will have a brick. If Fisker puts the money up, that $300,000, things might get a little easier, but it's still going to be a challenge. Do you need a part? Just a regular part. Well, those are subject to a tiered priority based on what the Fisker Owners Association has decided, at least if you try to work with them to get a part. And your part may not be priority. I bring this up because this is the future of ocean ownership.
The timeline skewed into this tangent.
Either you're going to have to deal directly with the FOA and get in line, and who knows what that line's made up of. Are people jumping the line? Do people get priority because of who they know? You won't know that. You'll also need to join a bunch of forums and look at a bunch of FAQs because that's where you're going to be. You're going to be in the FAQs, and I would recommend joining every group of Fisker Ocean owners that you can at this point that still exists and see what solutions they have. But you're going to have to do all of that if you want to continue to keep your vehicle on the road. And after you've joined the forums and looked at all the data and looked at the FAQs and emailed
at FiskerOA.com.
You are now going to sit in line. And if you want to jump the line, well, I guess call your local wherever they are doing Fisker stuff. I recommend the Fisker King at Evolution Auto Sports. Check him out, not sponsored. What does an independent shop that's working on Fiskers think about all this? Things that are being promised are unrealistic. They will need more than access to the cloud. They need an entire team of developers, our former engineers and technicians. It won't be a walk in the park. So how much does ownership really cost? Well, time has value, and you're going to have to spend a lot of time in those forums and digging and all that stuff. You got to join the groups, you got to join the FOA, you got to get in line, you got to wait, you got to make sure all the news and knowledge is right, you got to make sure the parts that are being supplied either by third parties,
You're not really fun.
parties or legitimate sources are indeed working or legitimate, but the long and short of it is your time is going to definitely be sacrificed for this vehicle. Money, obviously, is another huge one. The FOA is going to have a set of dues based on whatever they decide to do and however they decide to do it. If you want to get in on that, you're going to have to pay, and that could be extremely, significantly financially impactful, I promise. It could cost a lot of money. And then there's insurance. UK people, you can chime in here. How's the insurance thing going? Insurance is not going to be easy to continue to get. These companies know there's a problem with these cars and that things are going to have to be written off a lot, And if you want yours to be fine, well,
Not really fine.
don't mess it up. And if you mess it up, you're probably going to get written off. And if you want to maintain it after that, you'll have to buy it back from the insurance company. You're definitely going to lose a ton of money if you don't have gap insurance. If you have gap insurance, then take the money and run, basically. But either way, insurance is going to be a big deal and a lot of cost. And then there's emotional cost. And I don't care if you make fun of me in the comments for saying that, but you're going to have some emotional cost. Here's an example. This car is making me physically and mentally ill. I can't afford $2,500 to replace the windshield, and I definitely don't have time with work to source parts and join all these tech forums. I still owe $60,000 after putting $12,000 down and making 9 months of paying $1,000 a month. I'd never bought had I known I'd lose income or have a car without a warranty that wasn't reliable or that parts were not accessible or reasonably priced. If you actually own this car and you want to drive it, you should be alert. You are just one whoopsie.
Oh, whoopsie.
Away from the end of your Fisker journey.
Catastrophic.
If you thought losing $50,000 was a lot, imagine all of the value of your future time, money, insurance, expenses, dues, and parts searching you're going to have to do. One incident and then all of a sudden your entire life could be finding another part for your car. I say incident intentionally because accident is certainly a write-off. Let's say people start making third-party solutions like cloud stuff that allows you to look at your Fisker and do things with it. Well, they'll crack down on that too. Fisker Fi just got the boot as well as probably other stuff. How about Chase? Is Chase going to buy my car? No. No, they're not. Can you stop paying? Sure, but you risk a repo. And if your car gets successfully repossessed, that's not over. Your car has no value compared to how much you probably owe on it if you owe on it. And you might have to declare personal bankruptcy to keep somebody from taking your assets away in order to make up that gap. If you can make your payments, make your payments. So, will Fisker ownership go on? Yes. The Fisker Owners Association has made certain that there will be some kind of community that is actually dedicated to solving the problems that future Fiskers will have.
Things that are being promised are unrealistic.
Will it be expensive? Yes. Will it take tons of your time? Yes. Will it be emotionally draining and cause all kinds of other secondary problems? Quite possibly, yes. I have great news today. The EV80 kit cards are here. That's right. You can get one of these if you're a patron or a YouTube member for absolutely no charge. In fact, I'll probably send you 5 or 6 or a handful. Whatever fits in an envelope really well. You can give these to people to help them learn about EV80 kit. And if you want a sticker and you haven't gotten one, I'll be happy to include one of those as well. Check them out and share the EV80 kit. That's all for this one. If you've been following along with the channel, you may have realized by now I filmed a whole bunch of intros and outros when I had my Fisker Ocean right before I sold it. So here's another one of those. Subscribe for more and we'll see ya on the next one.
Hey, smash the like button.
Thank you.